kind of alluded to before in that essential veterinary skills course, we start with the safety and handling. Our student population is very diverse when it comes to their experience. We have lots of students that come in that maybe haven't had a lot of, large animal experience, and it gives us the opportunity to, again, introduce the safety and handling, being around the animals, and vice versa. Honestly, I mean, I am speaking from the large animal side, but we have the same scenario that happens in the small animal portion of our course. And personally, I was one of those students. I came in, my experience was all large animal. I didn't have a lot of small animal experience, so those types of introductions to species that you're not familiar with become very important, because obviously all of the species are included in the curriculum, and are required for a veterinary degree, required in order to take your licensing board examinations at the end. So they are all included.
Excellent.
So in the picture that's up there now, that's actually Kate, one of our technicians. We have quite a few of licensed vet techs that help support the faculty, but also assist in teaching of the students as well. And that's just an example there of one of our teaching horses in one of our clinic rooms, and we use those rooms both for our clinical cases as well as for teaching. So behind Kate, you can see the large monitor up there on the wall. So if we're doing a diagnostic procedure, let's say an ultrasound, we can cast the image from the ultrasound, up onto that monitor, so that everyone in the room can view an image. If we take X-rays, radiographs of a horse's limb, let's say, for example, again, we can cast those up there. Everybody can visualize the image immediately, and then we can have a discussion about what's going on. So we use technology to our benefit, and so that we can share the information, and all the students can see and participate in the same way.
So how many techs do we have on campus to work with the large animal population?
So our large animal techs, now, John, you're going to make me count them.
Spot today.
9. I have 9 quickly off the top of my head. And again, they're a large part of our program and support to the students, not only in their education, but I think sometimes personally the students become very comfortable with the technicians before they come to us with their questions, and so they're definitely an integral part of our team.
Excellent. And I have a question here from the audience, Dr. Peterson. What's a good way for students to get large animal experience before coming to Ross?
Yeah, that's a great question, because it for a lot of students, that is the difficult experience, if you will, to obtain, because it's not as readily available or around you like small animal practices tend to be. So my advice on that is to Google it, right? Look up. Yeah, I mean, it's the answer to everything now, right? Google it. Find large animal practitioners in your area, and call and ask. Say, express your interest. I'm interested in going to veterinary school. I have this type of I have a lot of small animal experience, but this is what I'm looking for. Practices are very used to that. I was very used to that in my own practice. We had veterinary students and prospective veterinary students around all the time. The easiest way, if you don't have any connections, is, like I said, just find somebody in your area and ask. The same would be true for even farms, horse farms, cattle farms, anything that might be in your area. Give them a call and say what you're looking to do, and it's very common for those scenarios to happen. So reach out.
Excellent.
The other thing is and we get this question a lot from prospective students, is that do they have to have large animal experience to apply? And it is not it is not part of our requirement that you have to have large animal experience. All experience is good, regardless of the species that you're working with. We are, again, set up to introduce you to that, but anything that you could bring with you is going to be a benefit.
Excellent. And how about student safety, kind of working with the cattle, working with the horses? How do you ensure that everyone is safe as far as handling?
Absolutely. And I'm going to keep referring back to this Essential Veterinary Skills program, because literally the first labs that you do with all of the species are safety, handling, and restraint. So safety with all species is going to be really, really important. So huge focus on the appropriate safety of that, and making sure that we're all aware of where we should place ourselves and not place ourselves when we're working around large animals. But we definitely have clear-cut labs, and it's important to point out these labs all build on each other. So they're not all just random pieces. They all fit together in the puzzle, if you will. The introduction of the safety and handling and restraint of each species, that's going to roll over into each and every lab you do throughout the entire program. To be honest, that you take with you into practice and life. I mean, these are things that are used every day by a large animal practitioner.
Yeah. And I know we don't track, so I know we expose students to both small and large animal medicine. So I guess, what's the message you get introduced to large animal species?
I'm sorry, I missed that question.
I was going to say, what's the message you start introducing students to large animal species?
So in first and second semester, you're through those safety, handling, and restraint labs that I was talking about in Essential Veterinary Skills. It's right off the right off the bat that you see those.
Okay. So when it comes to again large animals, what semester would you start that in?
So first and second. It is first and second semester.
Oh, first and second. Okay, excellent. So I see a nice little cow here in the slide. Who's that? Who's that person?
Yeah, so that's one of our. That's actually one of our bull calves, and I kind of spoke of this earlier, but that's one of the calves that was produced by one of our cows on campus in the program through the Bovine Club that imports frozen semen on the island to diversify the cattle on the island, and that bull calf was donated through the department from Ross and through the Department of Agriculture on St. Kitts to local farmers, again to try and add some additional genes to the population here. So we've also had a similar program with the goats. We were able to import a male goat, a boar goat, and again, bring the that animal in and help the local farmers to diversify that population. I mean, yes, we are. We're out here in the ocean. It's not always that easy for the local farmers to be able to bring in different genetics. So with our programs, with those, we've been able to do that.
And that's something I get asked sometimes during the mission interviews. How do students get involved with the local farming community? Is that through clubs? Is that something individualized? How does that work?
So that actually occurs through the club. So we do. I have mentioned the bovine club. We also have a small ruminant club, which would include the sheep and goats, as well as a swine club. So the pigs on the island and cattle, sheep, goats, pigs, are farmed here, farmed here for meat. And those clubs have the opportunity to go out and participate with the local vets sometimes, so our government vets here, as well as our own vets here on campus.
Excellent. So I guess a question here from one of the students, how is large animal husbandry different from small animal husbandry?
So, right, so our we kind of we talk about large animal, which is very broad, because we even tend to include the small ruminants, so the sheep and goats into that. And it's a common terminology that we use, but we probably should say, say farm animals or food animals, and sort of distinguish them, and even distinguish them from the horses, who in North America, we don't traditionally think as the horses as a food animal, but the husbandry of it, I mean, mostly has to do with with our large animal being herd animals, living in larger groups, eating solely obviously vegetarian diets. With our small animals, we have our carnivores and omnivores, and not living or housed in a herd situation that we'd expect to do with the large animals.
And it's funny, I know we have 12 horses right now currently on campus. So when it comes to potentially maybe riding, I kind of go, isn't there like an old racetrack in St. Kitts? Don't the students kind of get involved in that as far as the husbandry piece of it?
So the racetrack isn't currently active, and as a matter of fact, the racetrack closed down, and we acquired a few more horses to add to our teaching herd from that population. There are a few riding stables, if you will, on the island. They're sort of more trail riding type programs. The students do go out and work with those horse owners a bit, and ride the horses, and ride them on the beach and such. But again, we have over 300 donkeys on campus. So
Wow.
we do again use the donkeys as an equine model, and a lot of universities do that. They'll use donkeys or ponies in their teaching programs for all sorts of reasons. They are smaller, they're more affordable to feed. Here us, it's just solely access. We have access to as many donkeys as we would like, which sort of goes back to that little introduction I did on my research, where we're actually looking to potentially control those populations. The donkeys here on St. Kitts, and like they are in a lot of the world, are left over from the pre-industrial age. So here in St. Kitts, that was the sugar industry. And once the Industrial Revolution occurred, these animals were turned loose, and that's literally the populations that we're talking about today, even though we're talking about quite a long time ago. There's no predators to the donkey in the Caribbean, and you could see how the populations could get out of control.
Wow. And before we get into questions from the audience, I know that students get their assigned donkey, I think, in their last semester.
Yes.
How does that whole program work?
So as part of the large animal surgery program, your surgery group, you're put in trios, and you are assigned a donkey and 2 sheep, and we perform some of the common surgical procedures on those, including castrations and such. So there are the surgical skills that are learned as part of that course, but it's actually much broader in that is that you have your patient, if you will, that you're doing your physical examinations on each day. You're monitoring monitoring their health, and observing them before they've had anesthesia, after they've had anesthesia, and it allows you to see your first cases, if you will, from start to finish. And the learning from that, because I'm very involved in it, is a whole lot of fun. We had surgery lab this afternoon, and to see the students come in and be so nervous, for their surgical procedures, and they've prepared and they've studied their anatomy and they've done all of this, and then we work through the procedure, and I ask every one of them when we're done, was it as hard as you planned it in your head? And overwhelmingly their answer always is no. We were prepared. We were prepared for it. We knew what we knew what we needed to do. We knew what type of suture material we needed to close our incision with, all those things. But it's just part of my fun in the process, is really seeing those light bulbs go off and see the students excited, like, they did a thing. And I always remind them, I'm like, you did do a thing. You just did surgery. Like, that's a big thing. That's great. You should be proud of that. I remind them that less than 1% of the population of the world is a veterinarian. They should be proud, that that's what they want to do.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree with you. And Dr. Peterson, another question here from the audience. So Philip wants to know, are wildlife animals considered large animals, or are they separate?
So that's a pretty broad. I'll have a pretty broad answer, because there are large, wild species, right? So, and we do have clubs and groups that go to Africa and South Africa over the breaks to get an opportunity to work with some the wild ruminants and things that live down there, and then of course we have our smaller wildlife species, and again, it's going to depend on where you are geographically, but obviously all of the birds and such that kind of fall into that lump category.
So can you speak at all on the vervet monkeys on St. Kitts and how they kind of play a role?
Yeah. So one of the if you have interest in monkeys, yes, we have a lot of those. We don't have monkeys on campus, but there are 2 research facilities on island, and one of our adjunct faculty is a director of one of those research facilities, and there is a primate elective for students that are interested in doing that.
Excellent. So Jerry Ann wants to know, do students go down a large animal track, or are they in a track that includes both large and small animals?
So I mentioned this kind of briefly in the beginning, right? Is that a DVM, a Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, is a general degree, in that you cover all species. When you have the opportunity to sort of push towards your areas of interest, come more in your clinical year. So once you're done with your preclinical courses down here on the island, and you go to our affiliate schools for your clinical year, there's still core requirement, both that include small animal, large animal, equine, and then the rest of your clinical year, you fill in with elective courses that would be, more your area of interest. And again, that design comes through the AVMA, so that it is a general degree. The board exams are set up in that it is a general degree. And then if you want to specialize and become board certified in a certain specialty, then beyond your DVM, you can choose to go on and do an internship or a residency program that would allow you to specialize in equine surgery if you wanted to, small animal medicine. There's even avian exotic specialties. There's you name it, just like in human medicine, cardiology, ophthalmology, all the ologies are out there for you to specialize after your veterinary degree. Again, if you choose to do that, but with your veterinary degree, what most people, the largest majority of graduates tend to, go into practice, into general practice. Again, whether it be small animal, equine, food animal practices.
Mm-hmm. And that kind of leads to my next question from the audience. So someone is asking here, can students choose to work with a particular species? So can they just work with sheep or just work with goats, or is it kind of set for them when it comes to the curriculum?
The curriculum is set, and it's set again kind of for that diverse degree. And the importance in that is that there is a board examination at the end of your education that you need to pass in order to be licensed in North America, and that would include all 50 states, as well as Canada. And then even there are other countries around the world that also use the North American veterinary licensing exam sort of as their benchmark as to your veterinary knowledge. And that exam itself, again, is multi-species. It covers all of the major species. So that specialization again would come after you earned your veterinary degree, after you passed the national board exam, and then moved on to an area of specialty.
So Tylen wants to know here, Dr. Peterson, have you come across any colic cases with some of the large animal species on campus?
So absolutely. I mean, we have a small teaching herd of horses, and then of course we have all those donkeys. So we do our very best to keep them healthy, but absolutely. Horses and donkeys can be afflicted with those conditions, and we treat them appropriately here. But I think what's important, Tylen, to realize and remember again is that here on St. Kitts is your preclinical education. Your clinical education will occur at one of our 33, where are we at now? I think affiliate schools, where most of those are at universities. That's where you really see the large volume of your clinical cases. A big focus in our program, and this doesn't make our program unique, it's all programs, is that you need to know normal before you know abnormal. right?
Mm-hmm.
You need to know your normal anatomy, your normal physiology, before you can even recognize what abnormal is. You need those building blocks, if you will. You have to build the foundation of that knowledge to then apply it to clinical cases where things are abnormal. If you don't know where, if you don't know where normal is, you don't know where they started, and you don't know how to return them to normal. If you don't have those building blocks, lay the foundation of that, and again, that occurs in the anatomy courses, in the physiology courses. As we get more clinical, the diagnostic imaging courses where we look at a lot of normal first, right? You need to know what normal bones look like before you can decide if they're broken. Kind of simply put. Same thing with all the other diagnostic imaging modalities of, ultrasound, CAT scan, MRI, nuclear scintigraphy, all of those things. They're not helpful to us unless we begin with normal.
Absolutely. And talking about kind of beginning with normal, do students kind of go through like simulated surgeries before they actually get to the live surgeries on campus? How is that process like?
Absolutely. So back to our essential veterinary skills courses. I feel like I keep doing this, and again, those occur. There is an essential veterinary skills course in every single semester, and those build on each other. So we start with surgical skills in semester 3, and that starts, with the basics of suturing, knot tying, suture patterns, types of suture, what you might use those different types of sizes of suture for, and which sutures are absorbable sutures and which ones are not absorbable sutures. What's the appropriate use for those? So we do use models for those initially. We have some pretty nice models. A long time ago when I was a student, we used our couch pillows and any other thing. I have friends that are physicians, and they always talked about going out and buying a bag of oranges because they started their initial suturing on something inanimate to begin with. But absolutely, we do include all of that.
Now you got to be resourceful, right? That's that's the name of the game sometimes. So I know we have like snakes, I guess, on the island as well. Is that true? Do we have snakes on the island or no?
No, we have mongoose.
Mongoose. Okay. Now, do we get the chance to work with them, or is that something kind of separate?
Well, it's actually connected to the snakes. So there were snakes here 150 years ago, is my understanding. And the European settlers that came in actually brought in mongoose specifically to rid the island of snakes. So there's no wild snake populations on the island. Unfortunately, the mongoose do like to get in your garbage. So if you've ever lived anywhere where you have raccoons or anything like that get in your garbage, we have mongoose. And honestly, the monkeys are also pretty creative about that too. So those are our nuisances. They even steal my chicken eggs. I have a few hens, and the monkeys come down and steal my eggs. My wife sent me a picture today of a monkey with one of our eggs.
Oh,
So
wow.
they're a lot of fun to watch. They are entertaining, I have to admit. But
Interesting. So are there opportunities to work with reptiles or kind of specialize in that area?
So again, in the lecture courses, we do have exotic courses, and so the reptiles and amphibians tend to be even a smaller niche, if you will, and that focus would be, as far as clinical experience, is going to be in your clinical education. We do have a very active sea turtle monitoring network, which is basically our turtle club. We have some great scientists here that work with the turtles. I'm not the best guy to ask about turtles, other other than I've seen. I know those veterinarians and some of the amazing things that they've done with our turtle populations and protecting the nests when the turtles hatch. They will monitor them, make sure that these endangered species are actually making it back into the ocean where they belong once they're hatched, and then rehabilitating turtles that have been injured, have been caught up in fishing equipment, and we do have facilities on campus here for that to occur, and students that are interested in being involved in that. As soon as you're on campus, you can get quite involved in those programs. And each semester, we have a club. They call it the student government organizes a club fair. All the clubs set up around the student union with information on their clubs and what things that what they do and can offer in particular in those kind of areas of specialty.
Excellent. So another question here from the audience, Dr. Peterson. I think Christina wants to know, what is the norm as far as figuring out what each student may want to specialize in? Do most students know like right away or later on in the program?
Christina, this is an awesome question, and I talk about this a tremendous amount with our students because my favorite answer, and I always ask the students, sort of, I try to make a joke and make it funny, but I'll ask them, what do you want to do when you grow up? And my favorite answer from a student is, I don't know. And the reason that I like that is because a doctor of veterinary medicine degree is so diverse. You can do so many things with it. I think that coming in with your eyes wide open and sort of sucking all of it in and appreciating all of the species, that way you're accepting that broad education and not sort of pigeonholing you into the one thing. Now, you might want to know right now exactly what you want to do, and that's great. But it is important to realize that it is a general degree, and you are going to do these other species. I can't tell you how many students we see that come in knowing they're sure they know exactly what they want to do with their DVM, and I love to watch them start seeing other parts of veterinary medicine that they maybe haven't had a lot of experience or haven't been exposed to, and kind of get bitten by the bug, if you will, and be interested. I have a recent, she's a recent graduate now, but a student that came in and her experience was all small animal general practice. That's what she thought she wanted to do. That was the largest part of her experience. And all of a sudden, towards the end of her preclinical education here in our large animal surgery program, she said, I really like horses. She didn't have any horse experience at all.
Yeah.
And she just got bit by the bug, if you will. She ended up going to Colorado State for her clinical year, and she took extra equine electives because her interest changed, and she's currently doing a equine rotating internship at Washington State University.
Wow.
So I think it's I kind of get excited about talking about that with because and I can tell you I was guilty of it myself. You have your experiences and what triggered you to want to become a veterinarian. What I learned very quickly in vet school is there was so much more to it than what I knew, and so many more opportunities and things I had no idea were out there. So I love seeing that that happen, and happens quite a bit, and I think it's such a great thing.
Absolutely. You gotta be flexible. Be a sponge and kind of take it all in. Just learn everything while in vet school. So I
Absolutely.
agree with you. So another question here from the audience, Dr. Peterson. Are there any breeding programs at the university for large animals?
So we do, as I mentioned, with the cows that we breed and then sell and donate the bull calves out into the population. The AI or artificial insemination certification. We have an AI certification course, which is through a club outside of the curriculum. You're not required. All students are not required to become certified in bovine artificial insemination, but through that program, we are able to do the AI artificial insemination certification for them, and then be here through obviously the heat detection, figure out when they need to be bred, artificially inseminating them, pregnancy diagnosis, and then all the way through calving.
Oh, it's pretty comprehensive. And with that certification course, are there sign-ups for it? How do students learn about it?
So that's through the bovine club.
Bovine club.
Yep. And again, that information all available at the club fairs, and as with everything else in the world now, they have a Facebook page. All of our clubs have Facebook pages, and communication and organization through those clubs is quite a bit on Facebook. So each of those clubs, again, we mentioned the AIA certification with the bovine club. There's some other certifications with the small ruminants that occur, but each of these clubs also will have guest lecturers that come, do additional lectures in that area of interest. Any additional labs that we can add for those specific groups that have those desires in that specific area.
All right, sounds good. Excellent. And then another question that came in here, can you give some examples of careers in veterinary medicine that involve large animals?
Absolutely. So, like myself, I was an equine practitioner. So my practice was 100% horses. That's all, all that we saw and treated there. When we look at the other large animals, so the food animals, bovine practitioners, and you'll see them even sort of categorized as well, right, into beef cows and dairy cows, and veterinarians that are in general practice that are assisting owners with production, right? So obviously, production animal medicine is super important there, as well as treating the hurt or ill animals within that species, and that's true for any of the other food animals, poultry, both meat and egg laying birds, swine, pig production. So those are all areas where veterinarians are involved. There are veterinarians involved in a tremendous amount of research. And both on the human and veterinary side of research. Obviously, with Corona being the hot topic lately, and the large pharmaceutical company Pfizer, released some of their preliminary studies showing 90% efficacy with their vaccine. I actually learned something new: is that the CEO of Pfizer, Human Medica, is a veterinarian.
There we go. Yeah.
So, thought that was pretty cool. He's from Greece, and so nonetheless, veterinarians are involved everywhere. We have students that were in the military prior to coming to veterinary school. and go back on active duty. We have a very recent graduate who had just asked me for a letter of recommendation to sign up and go back on active duty with the Army Veterinary Corps. And anything in the military, that in itself can be diverse, as can be. I have a classmate that's been in the military since we graduated, and he is primarily a small animal practitioner on an Army base. He deals with all the military animals as well, but essentially has a typical, if you will, small animal general practice, whereas other veterinarians in Army Corps, could be working with disease outbreaks in production animals and in different countries, helping out, try and identify how to better produce healthier animals. There's within the U.S. government, the USDA, and meat inspection. There's veterinarians involved in all of that, making sure that our food sources are healthy and ready to be distributed through the grocery stores. So there's a tremendous number of ways that you can get involved in large animal medicine that way.
Yeah, and kind of going back to your point with the CEO from Pfizer being a veterinarian, One Health is kind of taken off right now in the veterinary community, and I know we do a lot of One Health research on campus. Can you kind of explain that a little bit to the students and what that means to our campus community?
Absolutely. And we're one of the first and few of the veterinary schools involved in this One Health idea, and in that trying to bring human and veterinary medicine together, right? That we're all one, we're all animals, and that working together within the disciplines that we can better everyone's health. So we do have the opportunity for a master's degree. We do offer dual degree programs here. If you have interest in that, you can do your DVM along with a master's in research, or in this case, a master's in One Health. So if public health is of interest to you, those opportunities are available.
Excellent.
We also, I know we're just to add on to that real quick. I apologize for interrupting. But we also have a PhD program as well, and that would be something that would be done beyond or after your DVM. But there are opportunities here to continue your education even more. Again, beyond a DVM, potentially a master's or even a PhD.
Excellent, Dr. Peterson. There's another question here from the audience. Do you know what percentage of our graduates actually go into large animal medicine as far as specialty?
So I don't. The information I have specifically about our students is a bit anecdotal, but the AVMA puts out a report every year on graduates of all AVMA accredited schools. The interesting thing was this year, for the first time, they actually, when they published that data, they published it as two different papers, and they looked at AVMA accredited schools in North America and AVMA accredited schools in the Caribbean. So we're one of two AVMA accredited schools in the Caribbean, and it did give us a bit more perspective on what our graduates were doing after they graduated. And obviously, with my interest being equine, I was amazed and happy to see that, although not hugely statistically significant, but a larger portion of our students went into equine practice as compared to the North American schools. So I was kind of proud of that. But overall, looking specifically at large animal, we're very equivalent with all of the North American schools.
Excellent. And another question here, do you have any advice for students who are not accustomed to handling large animals and may be nervous about that process?
Absolutely. That is a significant part of those labs that I spoke of earlier. Obviously, any experience that you can, that you might be able to get prior to school would be great, but not necessary. Our program is designed around that. We know. So just back to I'm going to backtrack a little bit. Equine practice for all AVMA accredited schools, about 3% of new graduate veterinarians, this is talking about all AVMA accredited schools, go into equine practice, right? So we know the largest majority of the students that come to our school and any AVMA accredited school likely haven't had a tremendous of large animal experience. So we're very aware of that, and our program is very much set up for that. And starting with just getting comfortable around them. I kind of make a joke with the students a lot, but I actually am telling the truth. I feel the same way about a cat. If I have a fractious cat, because it's not what I know, it's not what I've practiced. I didn't learn how to read a cat. I did in school, I had to, and I figured some things out, right? But your experience and your learning is what then leads you to to that comfort level and learning how to read the different species. So very much ingrained in our program.
Excellent. And then the last question I have for you here, I know we do a lot with holistic care with the Chi Institute when it comes to our horses. Can you kind of explain that process as well?
Absolutely. So the Chi Institute, so we do offer, again, and it's through the Integrative Medicine Club, a certification in acupuncture through the Chi Institute in the U.S. And because non-traditional medicine, ancillary treatments are of interest to a lot of people and clients, there is the opportunity to do that while you're here on island.
Excellent. Dr. Peterson, thank you so much for your time today. It is very informative to kind of learn about our program that we offer at Ross Vet. Again, as a quick reminder for those still logged on, there's a URL pinned at the top of the Facebook and YouTube comments area. So feel free to click on that to learn more about Ross Vet. Again, Dr. Peterson, thank you so much for your time. Any last minute words of wisdom for the audience here tonight?
Well, thank you for having me, of course. But yeah, I mean, any of you that are interested, and you're really thinking, this is the way you want to go, grab the bull by the horns and do it. It's a fantastic profession. I hope I highlighted, the diversity of the profession, the things that you can do with your degree. It's a great group of people to be involved with, and you could be the next ones that are the CEO of a huge pharmaceutical company that's developing a hopefully world-changing vaccine. So the world's up to you, but it's a great profession.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining, and have a great night, everyone.
Thank you.